Hi, I'm Sledge, I'm an artist, and I think Lords of the Fallen is better than Dark Souls. Hear me out, brother. I'm focusing primarily on Dark Souls 1 because it's a masterpiece. I haven't played Demon Souls, and FromSoftware changed stuff significantly in the other Dark Souls games. Dark Souls 3, they removed the poise mechanic. Dark Souls 2, they removed the fun. Bloodborne, they removed blocking, etc. Lords of the Fallen has been sitting at mixed reviews since launch, and only relatively recently has gotten itself to mostly positive, where it rightly belongs. First thing I want to talk about, gameplay. The most important part of a game is the gameplay, and I thought Dark Souls was perfect. Then I played Elden Ring, and I was blown away that they made it even better. But then I played Lords of the Fallen, and it got a few things better than Elden Ring even. First off, input delay. All of FromSoftware's games have an input delay that is not really noticeable. I noticed it one day and thought, there's a delay between when I press the dodge button and when I actually dodge. And yet I am still able to perfectly dodge and parry. Then forgot about it and never thought about it again. That is, until I tried to play Elden Ring after Lords of the Fallen and I couldn't do it. It was so bad, I felt so slow and clunky, and I shouldn't feel that way when I'm naked. It ain't right! It ain't American. Lords of the Fallen, I feel so fast and quick when I press my buttons. It is superior. In Dark Souls, there is one dodge you can do, and it is better or worse depending on how heavy your equipment is. Lords of the Fallen works the same way, except there's two dodges you can do. When you're locked onto an enemy and you press dodge once, you do a short side step. If you double tap dodge, you do a dodge roll that goes farther. This lets you choose when dodging if you want to get far out of the way of an attack or simply dodge it while remaining close to your enemy so you can counterattack faster. Archery and spells. So Dark Souls is better about letting you choose what weapons you want, as you can put any weapon in any of your weapon slots. But in Lords of the Fallen, you only have your primary weapon slot, which is any melee weapon, a secondary weapon slot for another melee weapon or a shield. Then you have your ranged slot, where you can either have a throwable weapon like javelins, knives, or bombs, a bow or crossbow, or a catalyst for casting spells. So in Dark Souls, you can really carry an arsenal with you everywhere you go. With a melee weapon, a bow, a spellcasting catalyst, and your item belt, you can put throwing knives. But the reason I like Lords better is because in Dark Souls, you have one spell equipped at a time, and you have to press a button to cycle through and find the next one you want to use. In Lords, you hold left trigger to take out your spellcasting weapon, and now your different attack buttons and such are now bound to casting assigned spells. So you can cast different spells consecutively with one button press. Bows work a lot better too, as you hold left trigger to take out your bow, you transition into an over-the-shoulder camera, and you can either lock on and shoot enemies like Dark Souls, or you can hold right trigger and see the arrow's arc and manually aim to try for headshots and long-range shots and leading shots and just aiming for weak points in general. It is so much more fun to use a bow in Lords than in Souls. I should say you can also manually aim in Souls, but it's an awkward scope thing you look through, and it's just not practical, and it feels bad. Also in Dark Souls, you have to accumulate arrows and throwing knives and bombs as consumables to use, like in every other game ever made. Because of course you do. While in Lords, when you have a ranged weapon equipped, you have an ammo bar that replenishes when you rest at a bonfire or vestige. Or you can use a consumable ammo pouch item to fill your ammo bar. It's just like a mana bar with mana potions to replenish it. And different ranged weapons and different ammo types with those weapons consume more or less ammo depending on their power. I'm not saying that part is better, it's just different, and I think that's cool. It might even be worse for all I know, because you can't stockpile arrows. But you can stockpile ammo pouches, which is like stockpiling all the arrows and bombs and stuff. I don't know, but I like it. Next we're going to talk about the world/lore/story. Dark Souls has no story. And I know you just clicked off my video for hearing me say that blasphemy, but I don't care. In Souls, you are playing in a world where the story already happened, and you are just in the post-apocalyptic aftermath wondering what the heck is going on. You have to collect items and read their description, then get confused and watch an hour-long body video documentary to understand anything. Lords of the Fallen is practically the same, except the story isn't finished yet. You get to finish it, and the characters you meet and talk to all feel like they are part of this story that's not done yet. Basically, in my own words, The story is, a demon-worshipping cult trekked their way into Mornstead, where these holy beacons were keeping the demons out of the world, but then the demon cult corrupted each one, and then started influencing everyone to become evil, and there are a few left who are sane and not evil, or become possessed and turned into demons. It's absolute chaos in the kingdom of Mornstead, but the Church of Aureus sends a small team of dark crusaders with the heretical umbral lamp to see what's up and cleanse the land of evil. The umbral lamp allows the bearer of said lamp to come back to life and tread the spirit world. When you die in the game, you're immediately revived in the umbral realm. If you die again, you come back to the last vestige / bonfire you rested at. So Dark Souls has the undead curse. Lords has the umbral lamp. But the Dark Crusader holding the lamp gets his butt kicked so many times he gives up and tosses his lamp into a mass grave, praying it will resurrect someone else who can get the job done. Then he dies. The Dark Crusader priest that was with him finds the corpse the lamp landed on and blesses that individual and sets them apart as a Dark Crusader, a complete stranger and without consent. Interesting decision making from Exactor Dunmire. You get to choose whether or not it was the right decision, because the corpse that got revived was you, son! You get to choose to side with the Dark Crusaders and cleanse the beacons and do Aureus' will and save Mornstead, or just say screw that and screw you, I didn't ask for this, and not cleanse the beacon, and instead assist in the revival of the demon god Adir and continue the violence and chaos spreading in the world. Or say screw both of you holy boys and evil boys. I'ma side with the eldritch Lovecraftian horror that the spooky lamp showed me, and destroy everyone, myself included. In Dark Souls, the story is humanity found fire that was pretty cool, and it requires the sacrifice of another person to be burned, to keep the sun alive, I guess. I don't know. So you fight to the end of the game to burn yourself alive to keep fire existing, or you snuff out the flame, and then it's dark outside. The end. I know what I just did was super unfair, but I have played hundreds of hours more of Dark Souls than Lords, and that is actually the extent of my knowledge of what's going on. I do know more about the past lore of the stuff that already happened, but I'm talking about the story in the game you actually go through. Also in Lords of the Fallen, you can read item descriptions to get lore like in Souls, but you also come across characters' memories that the lamp will show you, so you can actually see and hear what happened in that place in recent history. Not 1,000 years ago, but more like last week. It's so much easier to understand what's happened and happening here, who the enemies are and where they came from. The world in Souls just doesn't make any sense to me, but the world in Lords seems very clearly established. There are so many different kinds of enemies in Dark Souls, which is a good thing, but I don't know who they are, what they are, where they came from. In Lords, there are 3 enemy factions: the Hallowed Sentinels, which are the Holy Knights who have become corrupt by demonic influence, the Rogar, which are the demons and demonic undead, and the Umbral entities and undead. Throughout the course of the game, you learn from the other characters in World who the Hallowed Sentinels are, and what the Rogar are and where they came from. But the Umbral remains mysterious, I think, where you have a lot of questions about this world that aren't all answered, which is pretty cool, I think. Next, I want to talk about the Pursuer. I don't know how factual this is because it's something I just heard on the internet and I did not look into it further, so my source is trust me bro. Wanted to make that clear before I slander FromSoftware here. Dark Souls has been trying and failing to implement something from the beginning. Lords of the Fallen succeeded though. Apparently FromSoftware has tried to have an enemy that was constantly pursuing the player as they went through the game, but they never figured out a good way to go about it, I guess. But repeat bosses like the Pursuer in Dark Souls 2 or the Black Knights in Elden Ring are FromSoftware's way of going about this. I don't think they ever had the intended effect. Lords of the Fallen has a similar thing. The first boss you fight in the beginning, which they removed because I guess weak people complained, I don't know. But this boss you fight in the beginning will absolutely destroy you, and then you'll continue to come across him again and again throughout the world until you beat him. Every time you find him, you have one chance. If you die, better luck next time you find him. Until the end of the game, where there is a permanent arena where he will always be until you kill him. But he is not the Pursuer I want to tell you about. If you go into the Umbral Realm, you get 10% more souls or vigor from the enemies you kill. The longer you spend in Umbral, the more enemies spawn. The harder enemies spawn, and the higher your multiplier gets for more vigor or souls from killing those enemies. Eventually, if you spend too long in Umbral, you get 3 times the vigor, but the Red Reaper comes after you, disables your ability to heal, and decimates you. You get an achievement for killing it though, which is pretty cool. Good luck though, the Red Reaper is a tank. Next, actual co-op. Dark Souls has always been what I imagine to be the most fun game to have co-op in, and it has also always had the worst co-op features and functionality I've ever seen. Elden Ring is better, but still horrible with invisible walls and stuff and not being able to summon a friend in an area where the boss has already been killed. Lords of the Fallen released with the best co-op I've ever seen in a Souls-like. You can play the whole game together, start to finish, seamlessly. Then people still complained that it wasn't seamless enough, so the developers upgraded it with the shared progression seamless co-op, and it's amazing. Co-op probably will never be better in any Souls-like game again. Lastly is aesthetic, which is purely my own opinion, which I guess most of this is actually just my opinion, but this especially. I loved Dark Souls aesthetic. It was dark and spooky and grim and medieval. The knight armor designs were so cool and such a good mix of dark fantasy and realistic design, and the weapons were sick too. The undead and the demons and the magic types of miracles, sorceries, and pyromancies. Lords of the Fallen is similar, but leaning harder into the grim dark fantasy, with pretty realistic armor designs for the base, then putting crowns of thorns on the helmets representing penitence, often putting thorns on the hilts of the swords just to feel the pain while wielding your weapon. Candles and holy bells are everywhere in the cathedrals of the once righteous. The corrupt demonic forces with their bones, skulls, and spikes and flames. The kingdom of Mornstead is bathed in blood from these two corrupt evil forces fighting against each other. Then the likely Bloodborne-inspired Lovecraftian horror of the Umbral realm, with its eyes always watching, eyes everywhere, driving those who glimpse into the spirit world mad. The types of magic are similarly holy miracles, pyromancies, and the Umbral sorceries. This is a grim, dark horror fantasy world. Alright, now I'm gonna quickly blast through what I think Dark Souls does, which is better than Lords of the Fallen, and also some complaints people have about Lords that I think are invalid. First, people say the enemies in Lords of the Fallen are annoying. The enemies in Dark Souls are also annoying, so I see no difference. Dark Souls has this cool connection where you can see the spirits of other players, and those players can leave messages on the ground for others to find and read. Lords doesn't have this, but I don't care. Dark Souls rewards the player for overcoming trials with a gorgeous view. Lords doesn't do this, which is a little sucky, but I don't mind, especially because Lords of the Fallen is a bit easier than Dark Souls, which is a bad thing. I wish it was just as hard. Someone called the Umbral Lamp a gimmick, so I am 100% sure they didn't play the game. Lords of the Fallen is the only Souls-like not made by FromSoftware that I have played to the end. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for wasting your time with me today. I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening to me ramble on about crap that does not matter. Here is my drawing of the Umbral Beast. I spent like 18 hours on this. It shouldn't have taken that long, but I'm just really bad at art. What can I say? Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.